The tourist magnet of Myrtle Beach was a ghost town on Thursday morning with the imminent approach of Hurricane Florence, apart from a few dozen locals who had chosen to ride out the monster storm on the coastline. The life-threatening hurricane, which has 10 million people in its path, began lashing North Carolina with wind and rain this morning. Winds of 105 miles per hour are expected along with storm surges of 9-13 feet in some areas. The storm is expected to make landfall on Friday morning and sit over the Carolina coast for at least 36 hours. Florence has been downgraded from a Category 4 to a Category 2 hurricane, but authorities are still urging people to evacuate because the size of the storm is increasing and is no less dangerous. On Myrtle Beach, locals were enjoying a relatively calm morning before the wind and waves picked up around lunchtime. Frank Rose, 56, was taking a stroll along the beach from his home in Surfside, a few miles down the coast. The Pittsburgh native moved to the beach town in February after vacationing with his family in South Carolina for many years. Share this article. I'm a pilot, so I'm used to bad weather, he said. Rose, who flies for American Airlines, said he had decided to stay and that his oceanfront home was hurricane-proofed with sturdy cement siding, reinforced windows and elevation on 12-feet pylons. "I've got plenty of food, and it's just me, so I've got beer," he joked. He said that most of his neighbors had heeded the warnings and left town. "Everybody bugged out. There's some people who have retired here and some vacation rentals, they've all gone. I was on the beach at 6 a.m. and was talking to the police. They are going to have a curfew at 8 o'clock tonight, but once the storm starts around 5 p.m., I don't think they are not going to respond to anyone." Rose said that he believed more people had left this time than in previous hurricanes. "I just moved here in February, but I had a vacation planned during the last one, Hurricane Matthew 2 years ago, and it seemed like a lot of people stayed then. This time not so many have. I think this one has been taken seriously. They made a lot of noise about the evacuations and the size of this thing. It's been downgraded to a Category 2, but the problem is if it moves down the coast, it's going to dump a lot of rain and cause a lot of flooding." Jamie Pride, 33, was at the beach with Lucas, 15, Emery, 7 and 20-month-old Paxton. She and her family, who have lived in Myrtle Beach for 7 years, decided to stay because she is a nurse and her husband also works in the medical field. Although it wasn't mandatory for them to stay, they were asked to stay longer because of their jobs. "There are evacuation zones 1, 2, and 3, she said. "We live past Zone 3 close to Coastal University. We just came to the beach to see what it looked like out here." She said that a lot of her neighbors had left to stay with family in the North and in Florida. "We have friends staying with us because her husband is a firefighter and he's not allowed to leave. We went grocery shopping, took down our fence, and we have a generator if the power goes out. We are going to hunker down." Jim Holiday was at the beach taking photographs with his wife April and friend Linda Nama, who lives in Surfside. He said, "We live in Forest Brook, which is over the Intercoastal Waterway. I am born and raised in Horry County and I've never left for a hurricane. We've got food and we'll board up one large window. Linda had decided to take shelter with the holidays at their home to ride out the storm. I've been here since 1984, after moving from Virginia, she said. We went through Hugo, and it was very bad. We had friends that had gone inland to the town of Florence, and a tornado ripped the roof right off their hotel. Taylor James, 19, was checking out the surf under the pier with her boyfriend, Joe Freeman, 20, his mom, Kenda Payton, a 57, and their friend Richie Lawton, 20. The art student, who grew up in Myrtle Beach, said, "My dad stayed through Hugo, and it was fine. We think it's going to be the same, and we are way more prepared now in our house than they were then. We have plenty of food and water, and we actually live about 20 miles away in Conway." Kenda Payton, who is originally from Iowa but has spent 22 years in South Carolina, said, "I've never seen this many people leave. People heeded the warnings. In Conway, stores closed 4 days early, which made it hard for people to prepare." Drone and dashcam video shot on Wednesday shows just how quiet the city has become and suggests most of the city's 32,000 residents have already left. The mandatory orders applied to most of the South Carolina coast and parts of North Carolina and Virginia. Myrtle Beach is like a ghost town. We've only lived here 3 years, but we have friends that have lived here their entire life and have never experienced or seen the town so eerie, on resident Roger Maybe told Stuff. In Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, all residents had to leave by 8 p.m. on Wednesday, otherwise there would not be any emergency services assistance provided to them. Carolyn Senior spent the day boarding up her parents' house. "We are boarding up today," she told ABC 11. "It's hot. It's not fun, but it's all we can do at this point. We are just trying to get everything out of the bottom of the garage as we are sure there is going to be water." Hurricane Florence and numbers outer bands of wind and rain from a weakened, but still deadly Hurricane Florence began lashing North Carolina on Thursday. As the monster storm moves in for an extended stay, here is a breakdown by numbers. Florence clocked 110 miles per hour winds on Thursday after it was downgraded to a Category 2. The storm was already generating 83-foot waves at sea on Wednesday. Life-threatening storm surges of up to 13 feet were also forecast in some areas. Florence is forecast to dump up to 40 inches of rain in some areas after it makes landfall in North and South Carolina. Potentially 10 trillion gallons of rain is expected in southern states in the next week. An estimated 10 million people live in areas expected to be placed under a hurricane or storm advisory. Up to 1.7 million people were ordered to evacuate ahead of the hurricane. Officials are predicting Florence could cause $170 billion in property damage, but many businesses are already suffering an economic hit from the loss of business. Chapel Hill has been hit by the closure of the University of North Carolina, with its 55,600 staff and students ordered to evacuate, and the first football game of the year called off. The cancellation of the game alone will take away $8 million in potential economic benefit from the local areas. With the campus closed and the football game cancelled, there's a lot of anxiety at local businesses, local Chamber of Commerce CEO Aaron Nelson told CBS. UNC only has about 6 home games every season, and losing one of those is a really big deal. The historic port city of Charleston, South Carolina, saw heavy flooding during Tropical Storm Irma last year, and officials are warning the impact of Florence is expected to be worse. Many of the city's residents had gone by Wednesday, joining 300,000 of their fellow South Carolinians also fleeing the day. But despite the orders, some residents are staying put. Tim Turman and his wife live in Southport, North Carolina, and are planning to ride out the storm. "Once you leave, it will be hard to get back in to check on damage," he told CNN. "My home is all my wife and I have, materially speaking, a lifetime of stuff. Several highways in the Carolinas were turned into one-way streets so everyone could escape in cars laden with possessions. Other infrastructure has ground to a halt, with Charleston International Airport among several closed until at least Saturday, and Amtrak pulling trains running to Virginia and stops south of Washington, D.C. The rail services are expected to restart on Monday, weather permitting,